Hello everyone and welcome to our presentation. We are presenting today a conversational agent to alert customers of suspected online payment fraud with empathetical communication skills. This is a joint work conducted by my colleagues from Alibaba Group, Cornell University, and Zhejiang University. My name is Jingyia Guo and I work as a user experience researcher in Alibaba Group. As people from worldwide grow more comfortable using payment apps, especially during the pandemic, fraudsters have adapted their tactics to take advantage of the quick access that payment apps provide. In 2020, the total transaction value in the digital payments in US is projected to reach $4.4 trillion, and the predicted loss because of online payment fraud will reach $200 billion in 2024. It is service providers' responsibility to detect fraud and protect properties for both online business and customers. When a suspected fraud is detected, a common practice is to reach out and call the customer to verify the important information to identify a fraud. For example, by asking the customer, have you verified if the payee is actually your friend's account? In this scenario, voice-based conversational agents offer an efficient solution with low cost for information collection, fraud detection, and alert provision. However, voice-based CAs are facing the challenges of conversation breakdowns that occur either when the agent is not able to understand users' input or when the user is just not feel like continuing the conversation. Besides, users may not feel obliged to repair the conversation breakdowns, since in the alert provision scenario, the conversation is initiated by a CA, and therefore, different from these smart assistants, our CA should take the initiative to repair a conversation breakdown before users feel confused and abandon the conversation. So how to build an effective CA to collect information for fraud detection? Recent literature on chatbot human conversation suggested that users prefer chatbots to proactively repair a conversation breakdown using powerful UI elements. And chatbots with active listening skills are more effective at engaging users in a conversation. However, for a voice-based conversational agent who speaks via a phone call, it is especially hard to manage conversations. Users are reluctant to cooperate, and they just simply do not trust the CA. In this regard, we designed Xing, a conversational agent with empathetical communication skills to converse with human customers. Xing consists of several independent components, including automatic speech recognition, spoken language understanding, a model-based dialogue manager, a risk detection module, natural language generation, and a text-to-speech module. We analyzed the customer's conversation with human service agents in fraud detection phone calls and identified 3 indicators of conversation breakdown. A question can be seen as the customer's attempt of clarifying the query made by Xing, and silence from a customer can be seen as an indicator of hesitating to provide more information. Irrelevant answers represent the scenarios either when Xing is not able to understand customers' input or when customers evade the question. Xing is designed to be a 28-year-old female customer service agent. Based on previous literature and Xing's persona, we selected repair strategies that fit in our digital finance context. We also include expressing empathy and backchannel as a repair strategy with an expectation of increasing customers' willingness in information provision and make Xing respond more like a human. Based on the challenges and characteristics of Xing mentioned above, we are interested in whether Xing could be more effective in persuading customers to stop risky transactions, encouraging customers to communicate more, and whether Xing is perceived to be more trustworthy. We conducted an online experiment to evaluate the effectiveness of Xing in a real-world digital finance scenario. We set up 2 versions of CAs, Xing and the traditional customer service CA. The baseline CA followed conversation management principles suggested by Google Dialogflow. We used both behavioral log data and self-report survey to evaluate Xing. Behavioral log data includes phone call transcripts, whether the customer stops the risky transaction, and whether the customer hangs up the phone call. And self-report survey metrics includes trustworthiness towards the customer service, privacy concerns, and risk awareness. During the experiment period, Xing and the baseline CA took over 144,000 phone calls in total, in which more than half of the phone calls encountered conversation breakdowns. There were 30,000 phone calls with a baseline CA and 52,000 phone calls with Xing. And in order to protect as much property as possible, our system first detects the transactions that are probable to be risky with the priority of sensitivity. We then predict the transaction risk using a CNN model trained on an annotated conversation dataset. There were a total of 17,000 phone calls predicted to be risky and 65,000 to be as non-risky. 162 participants completed the survey. All of them are native Chinese speakers, have a variety of occupations and education backgrounds. By analyzing the phone call transcripts, we found that in risky transactions, customers spoke more tense with Xing than with the baseline CA. Our results also showed that customers spoke slightly but significantly more words when conversing with Xing. We measured the stop transaction rate as subsequent customer behaviors after the phone call. The stop transaction rate indicates how many customers terminate the payment when the transaction is risky. We found that 29.6% of the customers who conversed with Xing stopped the risky transaction, which was significantly larger proportion compared with customers who conversed with the baseline CA. Since we found that all customers in all risky transactions were also willing to provide information, we only compared the differences of willingness in non-risky transactions. We found more than 55% of the customers were willing to talk with Xing and provide transaction details, despite the behavior outcome. We found that, on average, customers reported a tendency that they trust Xing more than the baseline CA, have less privacy concerns, and have higher risk awareness. But these results were not statistically significant. Here's what we have learned from our experiment. First, we would like to know, are CAs effective in persuading customers to stop a risky transaction? We found in both conditions there were around 30% of customers took the advice and stopped the risky transaction. While on the other hand, this indicated that there were around 70% of customers who ignored the suggestion from both CAs and continued the risky payment. We also found that the customer's word count slightly contributes to the prediction of whether he will terminate the risky transaction. Because Xing works as a whole, it is impractical to evaluate the effect of each repair scale. Therefore, future work can compare the effects of each repair strategies and their combinations in real-world context. We fitted a logistic regression model to predict customers' conversation willingness, and we found that Xing's word count positively contribute to customers' willingness. This finding may be because the repair skills used by Xing are more acceptable and less repetitive. For more detailed design implications, please refer to our papers, and we'll be so much glad to communicate with all of you. Thank you.